Hello everyone. This is Lori Mueller coming to you on Sunday, June 13th. 13th. It is the 13th. And I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, located in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I am coming to you with my favorite passion of all time, paper crafting, making cards, and sharing lots of tips and tricks with you on how I have felt that it was efficient or an easy way of doing things, or just the most economical too. So I am so excited. Hello, Margaret. Hi, Jewel. Hey there, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me. I am super excited to share a card with you that uses the Quite Curvy Bundle. It is a stamp set called Quite Curvy, and then there's a set of dies that go along with it called Curvy Dies. So I am really going to miss this bundle because I have found it to be kind of the unusual type. You know, there's hills and slopes, and it's used for creating slopes of sand or hills in a mountainside, or just to give your card or your project a little bit different look outside of your straight geometric lines. And what I'm really going to miss are the dies, I think, the most. Now the stamp set has coordinating sentiments that go along with the slopes of the dies, but you can use the dies outside of their intended or use on any project. Really, you can continue using them over and over and over. It's kind of like circles and squares and rectangles. You can continue using these beyond its life as a bundle or with a particular stamp set. So, and I am going to kind of share that with you today on how you can mix and match those ideas together. So I need to let you know that the last chance list for the January through June mini catalog expires on June 30th, and this Curvy Dies and Curvy stamp set are on that retiring list. The bundle, the stamp set, and the dies are all going away at the end of June. Now the dies are listed at 50% off. So if you want to get the dies, that's what I would recommend that you add to your stash, just to give your future projects a little bit of character, like I said, out of the normal circles and ovals and straight lines. So I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. Plus there's other dies in there that are bird shapes, leaf shapes, birds you can have as a silhouette. You don't necessarily need a stamp set, but with the bundle you get 10% off when you purchase them together. Now the dies are listed 50% off by themselves right now. So if you do the math, you could probably make the purchase separate, purchase the dies and a separate line entry for the stamp set, and it might come out a little bit less than the bundle at a 10% discount. So you might have to figure out the math on that, but just a little hint right there. But I am so excited. I have a number of birthdays in my family that are June and then the first week of July. So my oldest daughter's birthday is next week. It's a week from Tuesday. And then my husband's birthday is the Tuesday after that, and then my younger daughter's birthday is the Tuesday after that. So 3 Tuesdays in a row hit 3/4 of my family members. So I'm a lone duck in November, but so I've got to start thinking of unique, fun birthday cards and also gift giving. I have to figure out what they're wanting at the age that they are for gifts. So, you know, usually is cash, but you know, I don't want to do a whole lot of cash maybe, but we'll see. But anyway, so glad to have you with me. Hi, Julie. So good to, hey, DCNC. How's it going, everybody? I am Lori Mueller, coming to you from Lincoln, Nebraska on June 13th. And I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator within the United States. So I think we are going to go ahead and flip the camera because I do have one other promotion that I want to share with you. It's a one-day only. If you're not on my email list, subscribe. I do share tutorials, free tutorials. I have, you know, any promotions that Stampin' Up! Has got going on, or if I've got classes to go, sign-ups, all sorts of things. So this is one that was posted in my email that I want to share with you because today is the last day. So if you want to get in on it, it's a really good one. So let's flip us over and we'll adjust the lighting a little bit here. I had a sneezing attack before I got started here. And I think I'm okay. I think all my sniffles are gone. Okay, so we have this, tomorrow is the last day for this promotion. And what it is if you want to place an individual order, or if you want to get a group of people together and generate an order, or even demonstrators, we can take advantage of this. If your party reaches $250, you get an additional 25% or $25 added to the already $25 that you would get with that size of an order. So normally this column is not there, and you would get $25 with a $250 party. But once you reach that, you actually get an additional $25, which makes it $50. So this $250 doesn't sound so bad anymore when you have $50 in free product to choose. Now, what I am offering is I'm hosting a party right now, and I am going to award 5 guests at least $10 in Stampin' rewards. So the requirement is that you enter a $50 order and enter this host code, FYE63KS2, and you would go to my website at www.stampindreams.com and hit the Shop Now button, and everybody who places a $50 order, and the deadline is tonight, is June 13th at 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So I'm in Central Daylight Time. And when you do this, everybody who fulfills the requirements will have their name put into a hat, and I will choose 5 guests to receive at least $10 in Stampin' rewards. Now, it is possible that we could go above and beyond the 250, and so I will just continue incrementing them equally among all 5 guests. So that way, all the Stampin' rewards are going out to the guest. Now, if we do reach the 50% off, I will be keeping that one, but just think that the Stampin' rewards will be growing as the party grows as well. So 5 guests will be sharing with me the Stampin' rewards. So If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me, but that is my special that ends at 10 p.m. tonight. So you don't want to miss out. And then if you still want to get some, quick people put together, I can do that. If you want to put an individual order together, then by all means, don't use my host code because I want you to get all of the rewards instead. So on that note, today we are using the Quite Curvy stamp set along with the Curvy Dies, and you'll see them on the last chance list on page 23 of the catalog. But if I look for the page number 23, you're going to see that the Curvy Dies are listed at 50% off. They are normally $29, but at 50% off, it makes them $14.50. You cannot beat that. The bundle with the 10% discount is $41.25, and the Quite Curvy stamp set is $17. So if you add these two together, you come up with $31. So you're actually saving $10 by getting the stamp set and the dies as individual purchases within your order versus one line item that you would get the bundle for. So I highly recommend that you grab those while you can. So I am going to get us started with our creation today. This is the set of die, or the stamp set and the set of dies right here. And you can see that a number of these, anything that is raised is a cutting source for that die. And anything that is not raised, I mean, for instance, these leaves have a combination of embossing with them as well. Like the little sprigs right here, those are meant for embossing when you run this through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Everything else is a die cut that coordinates with the birds. So you have 3 bird dies that go with the birds here. And then you have these extras like this little sprig. You have some leaf, one leaf right there. This gem goes with that particular floral arrangement. And then the same with this one goes with the leaves right there. So you can actually cut those out and add those to any creation, home decor, scrapbook page, and you could ink this up in a darker tone of green and then die cut this and set it on your project, and then and then you'll be set with a nice vine of leaves. And then of course there's a number of sentiments that you can match with the die trim that you would want, if you want a bunch of dots, but you just have to be careful placement of these dies and where it's going to cut. So the cutting line is on this bottom section, so you would want to make certain that you position this correctly so that you're die cutting down here, and then you'll have the polka dots underneath your sentiment, and then you could flip it around and get a similar arrangement the other way, because then the cutting portion is right there and then having polka dots on that section. Or if you don't care to have the polka dots, then you would just, wherever this was lined up here, you would just shift it up and it would be a straight line at the top and polka dots underneath. So there's a number of ways that you can get your look based on your creation. All right, so set that aside. Today's project is a fancy fold, and I am using the designer series paper that is also retiring called the Fine Art Floral. And I just love this paper. It has big, colorful country, to me, is kind of a country vintage series of colors that are on one side. And this one actually, I did cut these to 6 by 12. If you left these as a 12 by 12, these two you could actually make a art piece by adhering, like Mod Podging them to a 12 by 12 canvas, or just put it into a framed art piece with a glass front and wood or whatever framing that you want. But they are just so pretty. I love them. And then the back side are more the swishing of paintbrushes, or more muted tones of color that coordinate with the fronts. So you have something that can kind of quiet it down a little bit, and then you have something that's a little bit bold and vibrant. And so I chose to go with this particular piece for my card. Now you can tell that just by changing up your colors, so if you wanted, excuse me, if you wanted to have a pool party backing, and then maybe a Merlot colors for your sentiment here, using also Mango Melody. There is some So Saffron, and then there's the Terracotta Tile, which is no longer available. It is retired. It's the same with Peaceful Peacock as well. It is no longer available. But if you have some of those colors, you can easily convert this card to any of these other floral patterns. And this strip right here is what really tones down the boldness of these big, bright flowers. So just a little idea that the Fine Art Floral paper is also on the retirement list. So you might want to take a look and get yourself a pack as well. So I'm featuring a fancy fold today, and it is one like this. Okay, and the back is just a quarter sheet of Petal Pink. It is originally 8.5 by 11, and I cut it to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So that is my base, and then I use the fancy fold Very Vanilla as my actual card that is planted or adhered to the Petal Pink layer. Now, to get this much of an overlap, I did use a 12 by 12 sheet of Very Vanilla, and I love that we have larger sizes of cardstock outside of 8.5 by 11. And where you will find that is on page 136 in our annual catalog. And here at the top, we have Basic White and Very Vanilla in 12 by 12. So you're going to see 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and then we have them in thick cardstock, so primarily for card bases. And then we also offer it in 12 by 12, and you get 12 sheets in each of those packs. So I chose to use a sheet of Very Vanilla, and I cut it at 4-inch widths because my base is 4 1/4. So this way, with one sheet of 12 by 12, you can get 3 cards with one sheet versus 2 cards with an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. So there's a little fun tip that's economical and helps you get the most use out of your cardstock. So I did choose to fold. Now you can fold it at any heights or increments that you want, but I do have some tips that I'm going to share with you on how I kind of went through the steps on calculating how I'm going to do this part. So I'm going to bring in my pieces. As I mentioned, I have my Petal Pink that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I have a piece of Very Vanilla that measures 4 inches by 12, and I haven't scored it yet because I'm going to share with you how I did that. I have 2 pieces of the Designer Series paper, and it actually started out as one piece that was 5 and it looks like 3/8 by 3 7/8. And then I cut it apart. Not that you would necessarily notice that they ran together, because if I had it this way, then I would want my seams, you know, pretend this isn't here, you'd want your seams to kind of match together. And so that's why I cut it that way. But the way I ended up doing it, you don't notice it at all that these two were attached. So it's not necessarily always needed to do this, but that's something to think about. So my pieces are 3 7/8 by 2 3/4, and that's going to be the top piece. And then this one is 3 7/8 by 2 5/8, and this will be the bottom section. I have a piece of Mossy Meadow that measures 4 7/8 by 1 1/2. And then I believe this one, no, this one is 1 1/4. So it's also 4 7/8. Then I have a separate piece of Petal Pink that is 3/4 of an inch by 3 5/8 of an inch. And then I went ahead and die cut the sprigs out of Petal Pink and Merlot, Mary Merlot. And because we're going to have a lot of other die cutting. And then I'm using some of our new Simply Elegant trim, and it measures, let's see if I can, it measures about 5 3/4 in length. So it's just a little accent that you'll see underneath the sprigs right here. I attached it on there with glue dots. And let's see, what else do I have in there? Oh, and then to add onto the fancy fold, I added a little strip of Petal Pink, which is this one, for a gift card. You would slip a I don't have one that's here. I can take this off of here real quick, but it would slip inside there. And now this is something that both of my daughters love. They both love Target. I don't know why, but I don't know. I just can't find myself shopping there a whole lot. But this way, you know, and you could probably put it in there, so this direction, so it looks a little bit more presentable. But it makes it for a gift card holder too. So, yay! All right, so I'll leave that in there for now. And we are going to get started with our card. So where we need to start first is, we can set that base aside. You'll see a lot of unison with the curvature here. So what helped me first and foremost was I got a piece of scrap cardstock that, you know, an old retired one, and I created a template, and it really helped me to determine that I am going to have uniform slopes among the sentiment, the silver foil trim, and along my edging here, and then also along this inside piece as well. So I just grabbed a piece of scrap piece, but this one does measure 4 inches. I did trim it down so that it matched the Very Vanilla layer right here, and that way I could just flush them side by side and go from there. So I'm going to be using my template quite a bit, And again, if you have the same kind of design that you're going this direction, you would want to make certain that your template measures the same width as the piece that you're working with at that time. So the first and foremost that we need to work on is this trim right here first. And I'm not going to fold my very vanilla layer at all, but I do know that it's going to start, because I'm going to fold it this direction. So I'm going to basically start at the bottom of a piece. I'm going to put my trim or my template here. Now, the first thing, as I mentioned, this die only has one cutting edge. And so I want to trim off the bottom first before I emboss the next layer. And I think, let me get some leverage here. And I just went ahead and I'll go that direction. Now, of course, I'm going to fumble around since I want to make certain I do this right and that I don't confuse you. And I do use a little bit of washi tape because it's so long and narrow. I just want to make certain that nothing shifts when I have it go through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. All right, so I'm gonna remove my template like that, and then plant my washi tape down. So pretty easy. And I will run that through first. And then we'll do the embossing using our Big Shot embossing mats for the next die, because I've really been enjoying using our dies as embossed pieces, especially when they have intricate layers. All right, I'm just going to go in real short like that. And then you're going to see this piece is going to come away like that. Okay, so I'm going to carefully remove, and you can use Post-it notes or painter's tape. I have several rolls of washi tape that I'm trying to get rid of, so that's my go-to thing. So that's the trimming, and those are the polka dots. So it just depends on how you place it as far as what's going to get trimmed and what's not. So now for the Big Shot, it's not the Big Shot, it's embossing mats that come with a white piece, a thin matte layer, and then there's a thicker gray rubber piece. We are only concentrating on the blue and the white. And if you ever, because I refer to these a lot just to make certain that I'm doing it right, there are nice instructions inside of this piece. So when you open your package, you want to make certain that you don't lose the insert because we are going to do the emboss only sandwich. And so what I need is to get rid of my plate number 2. I need a cutting plate. It says I need my die. So in order to have this line up again, I will be using this really cool intricate piece, and I want to line it up similarly to the other piece. And I believe, there we go. I'm gonna adhere that, because what we're gonna do, this won't cut as long as I am setting this up to emboss only. But it is key that you flip this upside down like that, and we'll go closer to the top because my paper is wanting to lift it up off of there. Next, you'll layer on your blue thin matte, and then we're going to top it with the white matte, the sandwich matte, instead of a clear plate. All right, so I'm going to run this through, and really easy. I'll unlayer everything. And this is the only time we are embossing that piece, because the reason I wanted it embossed, my initial intention was thinking that my edging would die cut this part out, but it doesn't. It actually cuts right here, and then this is left onto your piece. So my scenario was to emboss it to get the same appearance. Okay, so I'm gonna move this aside for now, and we are going to score now. So my piece here measures 4 inches scored. So I'm going to bring in my Simply Scored tool, and I'm going to line it up at the top, and then the highest peak will stop on the left hand side. So I'm going to score at 4. Okay, I'm going to fold it and burnish with a bone folder. There we go. And then, because my base is 5.5, I'm giving myself a 1/4 inch. So my base is 4 1/4, but I cut everything down 1/4 inch. So I'm going to do the same thing here. It's 5.5, but I am going to score at 5 1/4. Okay, so score there, and then I'm going to give it a fold and burnish. So it's really important to do the first step to score, fold and burnish, and then slip it all over to the left-hand side before scoring your next piece. I wanted a true sense of the top versus trying to make certain that I have everything lined up, because this score mark really isn't, it's in between my 9 1/8 and 9 1/4. So by doing this, I get a much truer measure of where I need to score for the bottom section. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, so next up, I want to adhere my bottom, make certain I got my right piece. So this is the bottom piece of Designer Series paper. I'm going to go ahead and adhere that with 1/8 inch. I can go ahead and keep that folded, and there we go. Because what I'm going to do next is die cut the Designer Series paper along with the edging of the Very Vanilla. So I'm going to die cut them together. And yes, my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine will do both layers. So I'm going to be good with that. Make certain I have, there we go. Okay. Now I want to bring in, I'll go ahead and get this die cut. Again, I'm going to bring in my template and put it, somewhere towards the top of that section. Now the die cutting part is right here at the top, so I want to make certain that I have my die positioned correctly. And I can pull this away and put down my washi tape, and then I can run it through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Now remember, I said this was going to be an extra special one because, I don't know about anybody else, but when you are making a card for somebody extra special in your life, like your mom or your grandma, your best friend, you want it to reflect something about them, right? And I don't normally make multiples of that over the top type of design. So let's make certain. Oh, I did. Good, good, good. Okay. So I'll just carefully remove the washi tape. And here we have it. So I might have to bring out my take your pick tool to poke all these out. Because I've got double the thickness, they don't want to just fall out as easily as if I'm just doing a layer of cardstock or a layer of the designer series paper. So I'm going to have lots of little polka dots here in just a second. And the good thing about this is that my die doesn't have all of these stuck in it, so I don't have to worry about them clogging up my die. So I'll move those out of my work surface. Okay, we're getting there. So now we have uniform. What I want to do next is go ahead and attach my top layer. Now I did not need to worry about going all the way to the end because my sentiment is going to cover over that piece. So I can go ahead and adhere this. Make certain I got it going the right direction. Hate to have flowers upside down on one half and the right direction in the other. I've been in a craze for gardening. I did a lot of it yesterday. I hadn't gotten any pots planted. I needed to repot some sweet basil and got my chives going. I did go out and buy a couple other perennial flowers, delphinium and some daisies, and I forget what else. I came across something new, and I can't even tell you what the name of it was, but yeah, we had a record freeze this last year that was like 30 below, and it killed off a number of my perennials, so I'm having to replace them. All right, so now we are at this point that I could actually adhere it to the front of our base, the Petal Pink. So why don't we go ahead and do that? Oops. And I don't know. This is a second card that I've done with a single card base based on a funky or fancy fold. And let's see, we'll go. I don't know, I just kind of like it. Because, I mean, you're getting 4 cards. If you wanted to continue, you could get 3 with the very vanilla layer or Whisper White. Like I said, we offer this in Whisper White as well. But then you get 4 card bases out of one sheet of 8.5 by 11. All right, so make certain I got that all good. And we're almost there. All right, next up is to do our sentiment and the trim. So we got a couple more die cuts. Set these aside. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with my template that I have been doing. So I'll do the silver first. And now granted, I did choose a wider piece of silver simply because I'm going to end up trimming off the exterior. As you can see, I have it hanging over the front piece, but it's lined up with my card base. And I wasn't certain that I would be able to get this to work. So I will line up my template. Let's see, let's remove the last piece that we just die cut. So yeah, I've been gardening, and I'm certain that there's a lot of everybody else is all done and with theirs and enjoying all the new blooms. It's just been kind of a little slow this year getting my stuff out. Okay. All right, so we'll trim that off. Make certain that run this through. There we go. Snip, I can just, because we're not gonna. All right. Then we have our sentiment left. So again, I am going to use my template. Now this one, I want to be extra careful. I want to make certain that I'm lining the bottom with the die cut, the line die cut. And it's going to be a straight edge on the bottom. Let's see, make certain I got that. Yeah, I don't need to go that close. All right, let's bring it up a smidgen here. There we go. Okay. Oh, so I'm not the only one that's still potting some flowers. Thank you, Lisa, for sharing that. So what's your favorite flowers? Gerbia or Gerba daisies. I love to get 3 different colors and put them in one big pot. And then otherwise, it's just whatever strikes my fancy at the time when I'm making a purchase. I'm not much for marigolds, but I understand the different color. All right, now we are going to make certain that we have the die at the top again, and this time we're going to have the polka dots. So we are going to, or the little dots per se, and I'm going to line this up. Oop. Here we go. There we go. Okay. So that template comes in really handy because you want to make certain that you have nice evenness across the two lengths. And then you know that you have a uniform width across the whole stretch. And I need to get some of those polka dots off of there. All right. And this will be our last die cut. And all right, let's see how I did. Yay! All right, that came out. Just poke out a couple of these Mossy Meadow little dots in there. There we go. Shift those out of sight. There we go. So next up, we are going to do our embossing of our sentiment. And again, I'm doing the wishing you the happiest of birthdays. I'll need my Versamark. And I'm going with white embossing powder simply because we don't offer vanilla. But if you really look at this card, the color of the embossing powder just kind of settles in and kind of plays tricks on your eyes and gives it a lighter tone than white. But if you look at this designer series paper, there are pieces or splotches of white mixed in here. There's a little bit right here, but the rest of it, because of the hue of the Flirty Flamingo, the Mary Merlot, and the Petal Pink, it gives this more of a very vanilla, and thus the reason I went with very vanilla. All right, so we're going to ink this up, make certain I have this, and I'm trying to remember now if, okay, so I did go extra wide, and I want to make certain that, okay, kind of eyeball where I'm going to stamp this. Oh, one thing this is important for this because of the dark. I don't want to have any staticky cling of embossing powder where I don't want it to be. All right, so if I go down here, and then cover it real quick with embossing powder. Now also too, this embossing powder, I better close that before I have embossing powder all over it. It looks like vanilla, but it's it melts white. So don't be tricked into believing that this is a very vanilla embossing powder because it's actually white. So there we go, set that aside. Now we can warm up our heat tool. I just love embossing, and this just adds one more element of wow. So this would be more for your very advanced stampers. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get that to melt. Oh, I love it. The magic of embossing powder. Burn my, there we go. And then I like to go underneath just to give it a little boost, and it actually raises that embossing a little bit. There we go. So if you don't have all of the granules set, that will kind of help finish that off a bit. All right, next I want to line up. Now I can trim off a good chunk of that. Didn't need all. There we go. There, like that. So I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive along this bottom edge and line up with the Mossy Meadow sentiment. Just adds a little wow, another wow factor. Let's see if I have, there we go. Yay, there we go. We're getting closer. Next is to add it to our card front, and I love how the embossing gave me, because normally this is a cutting line, like I said, and it gave me a nice little lining, a track that I can follow for this particular sentiment. So I'm gonna trim off just a smidge here to give myself a better eyeball, because I want it to lay heavy on this direction right here. So when I add my dimensionals, and I grabbed the black dimensionals because of the dark cardstock, I can get away with black. Whereas if I'm working with something that's white or very vanilla, these would show through, I think, when you're looking at your card thing. So I thought, well, I've got two layers of I've got the foil and the Mossy Meadow. I can get by with using black ones. And plus they were at my reach faster than my white ones. Okay, so line that up like that. And now I can trim. Like that. Love it. And I can trim over on this side. And then we have our perfect width. So as I'd mentioned, I'd already die cut the Petal Pink and Mary Merlot. And I'm going to add these together using the bottom leaves right here, because I'm separating and giving them a little contrast, kind of like a little shadowing of sorts. So I'm going to line these up like that. And then I'll bring in my trim and give it just a little crisscross and add a glue dot. Oops. So I think that's where I want my crisscross. Add it to a glue dot. I'm going to do it once here, and then I'm going to actually flip it around and get the other side. Whoops. Yeah, flip it around. So that way my crisscrosses are sure not to come apart. And I have the adhesive to adhere this piece like that, and then onto my card front. And I want to straddle the leaves right here with the beginning of my sentiment like that. And then one last couple of touches, I'm going to fold a glue dot in half and add it under this leaf to ensure it's not going to go anywhere. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the top. Fold it and add right there. And then we are done. So this was my first one. Here's my second one. Looks pretty good, don't you think? So pretty. Oh, one last thing, I forgot. We need to put in a gift card. And the way I used the measurements, I took my gift card like this and added a little bit of, because if you are, I mean, I could have put it this direction, but then the amount of adhesive to hold my strap was quite less than going the up and down. And then this way, because it'll be more visible when they open the card, I thought that would be kind of a good feature as well. So I'll put that, I'll slip that in there. And I'm going more towards the top of this section so that it does have more to grasp and hold. So I'll put that in there like that. Versus if I went way down here, it wouldn't have very much of your card that you're holding. But there we go, our fancy fold gift card, birthday card. So what do you think? I hope you like it. I know this is much more than your casual stamper or a new beginner, but I know I have a number of friends who like this kind of intricate thing. But you can really tone back on it. You could have straight edges instead of the curves, or just have one curve without the embossed layer. You can still add your sentiment, have some of these little sprigs off to the side, the same designer series paper, the same use of 12 by 12 cardstock to get your 4-inch. So like I said, you can get 3 cards with one sheet of 12 by 12. You can get 4 actually when you cut an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock into quarters. So yeah, the possibilities are endless, and so you can make this as extravagant or as simple as you like. And I'm hoping that I've given you a couple of things to think about and going either direction. So I think that is all that I have. So let's flip us back around, and if you have any questions, let me know if there was something that I didn't make very clear. And this is pretty bright right there. So, but I will definitely go back through all of your comments and see if there were any questions that I missed. It's kind of hard to see any questions or comments come through when I am in the stamping mode. So one of these days I'm gonna switch over to some new technology and be able to do both at the same time and have a real conversation in real time with you. So but I am so thankful that you spent part of your Sunday afternoon with me, and I hope that you enjoyed the project. Like I said, the last chance list, it goes through the end of June, but only while supplies last. So if those dies are sold out, tomorrow or next week, then they are not going to be making any more or having any more shipped in. So that will be the end of those dies. So anyway, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. But until then, I will be loading this up to YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would love it if you would do so. And then also subscribe to my email, subscribe to my newsletter information, and my blog, and we should all be connected. So until then, have a great rest of your afternoon, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much. Bye.